for me. Maybe Axel has some reflections after the Govinda Mela, and maybe some follow-up after the big gathering. Axel's quiet. Well, I'm sure Ati Sundari had something.
Actually, Didi, yeah, we have a question. We were watching.
Okay, but hang on. You guys are in the same room, and so it's not going to work. There's an echo.
Okay.
Turn off one of your things.
Yeah.
Wait, now you're both muted. Okay.
Yeah, I am muted. So I forgot what the question was.
So what's the connection between Govardhan and Navadvip?
Oh yes.
That subtle connection.
Yeah, we were watching the which video was it? It was in the
glories
temple,
of Sri
right?
Chaitanya
Yeah.
Saraswati.
Were you able to hear him?
Okay. You mean the video, the glories of Sri Chaitanya Saraswati Mahat?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
That video. Well, wasn't that discussed in that video?
Yes, but Adi Sundari, it's quite broad, and I couldn't really properly break it down for her to understand.
Okay.
I was wondering if you
could
down a little more.
So Sindri wants to know what's the connection between Navadvip and Govardhan. Is that the question?
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's a great question, great topic for discussion. Well, first of all, do you have some idea what Navadvip and Govardhan is referring to? Right? That's the first question. Mm-hmm. What is Navadvip? When we say Navadvip, then what do you think of? What is Navadvip?
The birthplace of Mahaprabhu?
Yes, that's right.
That's my sister.
And in Bengal, India, yes, the holy birthplace of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. That's right. Mm-hmm. And what about Govardhan?
I don't know.
Okay, so you're not so sure what Govardhan. Does anything come to mind at all?
Maybe Thakur Maharaj?
Well, Govardhan it's a part of the Vrindavan area. You could say it's a part of Vrindavan. You know what Vrindavan is, right?
No.
Okay, Vrindavan is Krishna's birthplace.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah, Vrindavan is the place of Krishna's birth, mm-hmm. who appeared in this world 5,000 years ago, approximately. And geographically speaking, it is an area in UP, Uttar Pradesh, Upper India, and it is just outside of Delhi, which is the capital, nowadays the capital of India. Yeah, so Vrindavan is very well. I love the fact that you didn't know about Vrindavan, but you knew about Navadvip. I love that. Usually it's the other way around. People are more familiar with Krishna's birthplace and less familiar with Mahaprabhu's birthplace. So I love that. You're a Gaura Bhakta. That's great. Yes. So Vrindavan is Krishna's birthplace. And so it's a very sacred pilgrimage site, very, very popular, you could say. Mm-hmm. And generally much more well known than, because actually, generally speaking, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is not so well known compared to how well Krishna is known. Mm-hmm. So Vrindavan, it's a major pilgrimage destination nowadays. And it is the place, of Krishna's appearance and where all of his, you could say in a sense, this is the center of reality, where it all really happens, right? Where Krishna engages in his loving pastimes with all of his beloved associates. And we think of that as an eternal current, actually, that it is mentioned, right, that the Lord's Leela, the Lord's divine play, it is always flowing. Sometimes it is coming before our vision in a manifest way, and sometimes it is invisible to our perception, but it is always going on, right? And so there are different ways of seeing Vrindavan, right? Those who have spiritual vision, they can go and still see those pastimes going on. So that is Vrindavan. Then what is the connection? So Govardhan is an area, it's right next to Vrindavan. It could also be considered a part of the Vrindavan area. And Govardhan is actually referring specifically to a mountain, which is considered a representation of Krishna. I think you must have heard of the Govardhan Leela, the Leela when Krishna holds up the hill with his little pinky, right, of his left hand. Yeah, so that's Govardhan. That the name of that hill is Govardhan. And then that area around there is known as Govardhan. And it's considered sometimes to be even more special than Vrindavan. You know, there's gradation everywhere, right? So even once you reach the spiritual sky, there's gradation. Even once you reach the birthplace of Krishna, there's gradation. And so it is mentioned that this is mentioned by Rupa Goswami specifically and other acharyas. It is mentioned that Govardhan is considered even more special than Vrindavan because more exclusive, more intimate pastimes between Krishna and his associates, especially Radharani, took place in Govardhan. Govardhan is also representing a very special mood of Krishna, a very generous mood, generous and sweet, merciful, magnanimous mood. And so we worship on our altars, and I think you have there in Salt Lake City also these stones, right? They come from that hill, right? So they're called Govardhan Shila. Shila just means stone, I believe, and it's used to refer to these types of deities. And there are two principal types of Shilas, these stone deities that are worshipped by the Vaishnavas. And one is the Shalagram Shila, which represents Lord Vishnu. And those come from a particular area in the Himalayas, the Gandaki River, I believe. And it's interesting because the worship of these Shalagram Shilas is very, very different from that of the Govardhan Shila, because Lord Vishnu is worshipped in a reverential mood. And so there are a lot of restrictions. Actually, where I'm now, in the home of Suvasini Didi and her husband, they have a Shalagram Shila they worship. They both come from like high Brahminical lineages in South India, and you know, they can actually follow that worship. Suvasini's husband, he does a 2-hour puja every day, you know, and he's a very busy man. He's an anesthesiologist. He works in the local hospital, has a very, you know, senior responsible position there. But every day and his schedule changes. Sometimes he has to work through the night, but he always puts in those 2 hours. Like it's a big deal. But you know, generally, you know, for Westerners like ourselves, it's not in our culture. It's very difficult to actually carry that worship out properly. And so then the contrast is interesting because the mood of the Govardhan Shila, which is representing Krishna, is completely different. It's the most generous type of worship, you know, no restrictions, no, very little, obviously, you know, some basic standard should be maintained, but very little restriction. Very, very simple. The worship is based more on the heart, expression of the heart. And that's the Shila, that's the deity, stone deity that is emphasized very much in Gaudiya Vaishnavism. And as I said, it represents this very sweet, very loving expression of Krishna, generous, loving, close expression of Krishna. And so then this question comes, this is going back to the first question, what is the relationship, and why did Srila Sridhar Maharaj choose, right, that particular area of Navadvip? Srila Sridhar Maharaj, it was, let's see, it would have been, around 1941, somewhere towards the end of 1941, Srila Sridhar Maharaj, he left his guru's mission, the Gaudiya Math. His guru had, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, had left the world just a few years before. It was the 1st of January, 1937. And he tried to stay in the mission for those few years, but there was so much fighting and corruption that went on, and eventually he just quietly pulled out, and he actually went to stay in Vrindavan in Govardhan during the Kartik month, this sacred month, which is coming up between October and November. And he stayed there in the month of Kartik, and he, at this point in his life, he just wanted to live a quiet life of bhajan, his internal service, to carry that on in a very quiet, simple way. He wanted to be a little anonymous. And so he was considering, where is appropriate for me to stay. And he thought of 3 places in particular. One was one area in Vrindavan. Another he thought of was in Jagannath Puri. And then the 3rd place he thought of was Navadvip. Right? And finally he decided that his place was Navadvip, because Navadvip is associated with this mood of generosity, merciful to the fallen. And so in his humility, he thought, it is for the fallen souls, and I am a fallen soul. He's thinking very humbly. So Navadvip is the place for me. And so he ultimately went to Navadvip. After first taking permission from Nityananda Prabhu, he went also to Nityananda Prabhu's birthplace, Ekachakra, took his permission, and then went to Navadvip. But here, this is the key point. When he made that move, he took some Govardhan Shilas with him, and he actually began the mission of Sri Chaitanya Saraswati Math. We can say he wasn't thinking of it so much as a mission, although in that moment, this is part of our history, actually. And so it's very nice to discuss these things sometimes. When he made that visit to Nityananda Prabhu in Ekachakra, as I said, he wanted to kind of go into reclusion, hiding even, because some of his godbrothers were looking for him and wanted to make him the head of a new mission. So he was kind of, wanting to go into hiding. But at that time, he received this instruction from Nityananda Prabhu. And he went, unfortunately, that deity that deity, speaking of being in hiding, that deity is in hiding right now. You can't find that deity in Ekachakra now. We have a beautiful picture of the deity, but some local people are keeping him in their home, worshiping him in some hidden way. You can go to the place which marks the birth of Nityananda Prabhu, and there are other deities there now, very beautiful deities, but that more original deity is not there anymore. That would be a nice research project to discover. Not such a big village, anyway, it's a whole other, I won't sidetrack too much. But anyway, when he went to the birthplace, and there's this beautiful deity of Nityananda, and he was praying for permission to stay in Navadvip, because Nityananda, he's considered to be the master of the Dham, the holy abode of the Lord, Dhameshwar. He's known as the Dhameshwar, the master of the Lord's holy abode, Baladev and Nityananda. So he was asking for this permission, but he received this very strong inspiration in his heart, hearing Nityananda instructing him, but actually chastising him and telling him, oh, you're asking me for mercy, but you've already received so much mercy and you're keeping it to yourself. That you received so much wealth from your Guru Maharaj, and now you're asking for more, and what are you doing with it? You're just holding it within you. And so he received that instruction, he felt, from Nityananda to share, to extend some mercy to the souls of this world. And so Srila Sridhar Maharaj, he decided, he wasn't going to go start preaching, in a large scale way, as he had done previously in his earlier days in his guru's mission, the Gaudiya Math. But he thought, okay, if some persons come to me and ask for a connection, then I will give shelter to them. That's my final, decision. And so then he finally went to Navadvip, and a very quiet way, oh, look, well done. Is that Ananda Krishna? Nice, Ananda, nice. This is the deity that you no longer can have darshan of now. You know what happened? And our Gurudev, he loved that deity so much. He mentioned once.
I can't see it. It's not in center. I'm sorry. Is anybody else seeing it? It's like to the side. Center it more in front of Ati Sundari's face. Oh, thank you. Jai.
Yeah, our Gurudev, maybe Chinmoy was there. We heard he mentioned, you can't find a more beautiful deity of Nityananda Prabhu. And Srila Sridhar Maharaj actually used to send some kind of donation to that temple every year, or maybe it was every month, every year. He used to send some donation to that temple before. But you know what happened with how I found this out, how the deity moved, is because when I went to Ekachakra, it was a while ago, maybe 5 or 6 years ago now. It was before COVID. And I was trying to find that deity, and I was looking, and it's very nicely taken care of, and there's this big compound now where the birthplace of Nityananda Prabhu is, and actually they're developing it more every year, a little too much, you could say. This year when we went, it just felt a little too much, a lot of security, and they take your phones away, and it was like a whole trip. But anyway, this was maybe 5 years ago, and I was looking for that deity, and looking at the deity, saying, no, that's not the same deity, And I'm comparing with the picture that we had, and then it was such an extraordinary coincidence. Suddenly Tirtha Maharaj appeared out of nowhere. Tirtha Maharaj, for those who don't know, he is, one of the senior sannyasis of our mission. Disciple of Srila Sridhar Maharaj, took sannyas from our Gurudev, Srila Govinda Maharaj, and very, very scholarly, Indian Brahminical birth. And so, if anyone was the person to answer the question, it would have been him, right? He just appeared out of nowhere. He just happened to be an Ekachakra and happened to be in that temple at that moment. And so I asked, oh Maharaj, what happened to the deity? I'm trying to find this deity. And he explained that some local people, for whatever reason, in India, the deities are, what can I say? Wars are fought over deities. And we were also discussing the other day how in India you can actually have a deity as a legal owner of a property. It's probably not possible in any other place in the world, but because one of our devotees in London, she's originally her family's from Bengal, and her mother built up a whole trust board and has a property for her. And he's like small, tiny little Gopal deity. And he has a 3-story, Oh, Ganga Lila was there.
He
You
was
remember
there,
Ganga?
right? In Calcutta? Oh my God,
That's
of course I
right.
remember the story of the deity owns the building.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. You were there, and Ananda was also there. We had a whole group there. And yeah, it's a 3-story house. And he's got a whole board of trustees for his care. And she and her daughter Ratnavali, I just saw her a few days ago in London. She told me that her mother spent, because it's not so easy. It's possible it's not so easy, but she spent 50,000 pounds GBP to go through all the legal processes to make it possible. But yeah, he's this tiny little deity, little Gopal deity, and it's his property, right? And our temple in Navadvip, legally, the deities are the owners there. I don't know if that's the case in all of our temples, but I know that our Navadvip Mat is Srila Sridhar Maharaj had the temple registered like that. And the way that they do it is that the deity is considered the owner, the proprietor, but the deity is also a minor. The deity is legally considered a minor. And so then the minor needs a guardian, right? And so then there are people appointed to be like the acting caretaker, but actually the deity is the owner. And I actually saw some legal papers once about this, and it described the deity as Krishna as a perpetual minor. Perpetual minor. It's so wonderful, so wonderful. Only in India such things are possible. And there are more stories we can tell about this, but we'll get too sidetracked and we only have so much time. Yeah, so coming back to Kachaka, Tirtha Maharaj explained some issue had come up, and for whatever reason, some local people had taken that deity away, and so he's somewhere in Ekachakra being worshipped. But we don't know where exactly. But one day it would be very nice. Of course, if he wants, then he can come out, right, of hiding and give us his darshan. So anyhow, Srila Sridhar Maharaj went in this way and began his mission in a very simple way, as a little hut on the banks of the Ganges. And he began with these Govardhan Shilas, 2 or 3, not exactly sure how many it was, but it was 2 or 3 of these Govardhan Shilas. And the place that he selected, because Navadvip, actually the meaning of Navadvip or Navadvip is 9 islands. Dvip means island, Nava is 9. So Navadvip is conceived of as being composed of 9 islands. And each of these islands are associated with a particular devotional practice of these 9 practices of devotion: hearing, chanting, remembering, praying, worshiping, and so on. And now here's the key point that we're coming to in regard to the question, that Navadvip and Vrindavan are considered to be one and the same. Same, but different. They are different expressions of the same spiritual substance, right? And it is the high, we can also say it like this: Navadvip and Vrindavan Leela, the divine play of these places, they are representing different moods of the same divine substance, right? And namely, Vrindavan is described as being characterized by the mood of Madhurya, which means sweetness. Right? In Vrindavan, you find the most sweet, loving mood of the absolute, right? In Vrindavan, you find Krishna, right? The most original divinity, and posing in the most loving, accessible, intimate, charming way. This is Vrindavan. And then in Navadvip, that same quality of rasa, right? This is another word we can mention. That same quality of rasa, taste, richness of taste and flavor, fullness of experience, that is also present in Navadvip, but with the added quality of magnanimity, generosity. And so the Navadvip Leela is described as being characterized by the spirit of Audarya, which means generosity, magnanimity, this mood, the spirit of distribution. So you can say Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has all of the sweetness of Krishna, and he is Krishna, but coming in this mood of distributing Krishna, right? That sweetness of Vrindavan is being shared and given out and distributed in Navadvip, right? In Navadvip Leela. And so they are like, Krishna wearing a different dress. It is the same Krishna, the same quality is there, the same quality of divinity, same richness of the rasa is present in both, but it is a different style, a different dress, right? And so Navadvip is considered to be non-different, to be equal, to be same as Vrindavan, but in it with a different mood, appearing in a different style, right? And therefore, each part of Navadvip has a corresponding part of Vrindavan, right? And so every island of Navadvip corresponds with a particular area and particular pastimes of Vrindavan, right? And so the islands, amongst these 9 islands, the islands where Srila Sridhar Maharaj chose to establish his mission, his temple, is called Koladweep. And Koladweep is representing exactly Govardhan, right? So it is all very, very fitting, right? Everything that Srila Sridhar Maharaj ever said or did was very precise. Like everything that he did was systematic, very substantial, very perfect. Like everything fits together very perfectly. Everything he does is very consistent and very perfect, right? And actually there are a number of other reasons why that place was chosen, but this is one of the principal reasons, that particular area of Navadvip is representing Govardhan, right? And Govardhan, which is considered the place of our high ideal, aspired, and that's another discussion too, that, why does Govardhan have this special position for the followers of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, for the Gaudiya Vaishnavas? One point we mentioned, that it's representing this very loving mood of Krishna, this mood of generosity in Krishna, intimate mood of Krishna. But then another reason here, if we're coming in to be more specific, is that, in the gradation of the spiritual sky, Rupa Goswami, he has discussed this in his book, the Upadeshamrita, which is translated as the nectar of instruction. And there's this one verse that describes the ontology here. So Vaikuntaj Janito Vadamadupuri Tatrapi Rasotsavad Rindavanyam Udadapani Ramana Tatrapi Govardhana. So he's describing the gradation here and explaining, higher than Vaikunta. Vaikunta is the place of Lord Vishnu. Higher than Vaikunta is Vrindavan. Why? Because in Vrindavan, God has a birthday. Simply put, God has a birthday. God has a birth. Why is that a thing? Because there's more rasa. Just like Jason just had a kid for the first time, and he's experiencing what it's like it's a new experience. There's new flavor, what it's like to be a father, right? So like generically, people will say, well, God can't have parents. That doesn't make sense. That's not logical at all. Like, he's the creator of everything. But the Gaudiya Vaishnavas see it just the opposite way. They say, well, actually, if he doesn't have parents, then he's not fully developed. That's a less developed expression of divinity. Because that relationship of having God as your child, that's not possible. That's not available. And this is what we call rasa. There's a very unique rasa in having that experience of parenthood, right? There's a unique type of fulfillment in that relationship, right? And that type of love. But in Vishnu, that relationship is not available, because he conforms to what one would generally expect God to be like. He's just eternally existent. Obviously, he doesn't have parents. He's the origin of everyone. He's the creator of everyone, right? So that rasa is actually missing, right? So there's no Janma Leela. There's no birth pastime, no birthday in the pastimes of Vishnu. So Rupa Goswami explains, therefore Vrindavan is more developed, right, than Vaikuntha. And then he says, and next is Govardhan. Govardhan is more. Oh, actually technically he starts with Mathura. Mathura is like the general region, and Mathura is also technically the city where Krishna was born, right? And then from Mathura, he's taken to Vrindavan, where he lives out his loving play with his technically foster parents, and all the wonderful villagers of Vrindavan, right? So higher than Vaikuntha's Mathura, then higher than Mathura's Vrindavan, then higher than Vrindavan is Govardhan, because more intimate, more loving, more joyful pastimes took place between Krishna and his associates. And then it goes on, even higher than Govardhan is Radha Kund, right? So as this Govardhan hill is considered to be the extended self of Krishna, Radha Kund is considered to be the extended self of Radharani. And Radha Kund is considered to be the highest place, actually, in the spiritual sky. And we can say, oh, because, this is where the most intimate exchanges took place between Krishna and his beloved associates. But this is another, Srila Maharaj, he explained this in his style, and from this is some very profound point of view. He says that Radha Kund is the place where Krishna gives more of himself than anywhere else in response to the level of dedication that is given to him, that is offered to him by his devotees. Because God, divinity, reveals itself in accordance with how much one is offering themselves, right? As we, as mentioned in Gita, ye yatamam prapadyante tamsta jaiva bhajamiham, right? As persons approach me, so I approach them. So according to the degree of surrender with which we approach Krishna, so much he will also, in the same fashion, approach us, right? And so Radha Kund is the place where Krishna's associates, in particular the gopis, the Braja gopis, they are offering themselves with the deepest mood of surrender, self-giving. And Krishna's reciprocating with that by giving the most of himself. So this is Radha Kund. It is a lake, Radha Kund. So this Radha Kund is considered to be the highest place. So then why are we putting all the emphasis in Govardhan, right? Let's go back to that point. Because this is the thinking of our gurus, and this is something that was discussed by Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, and also our Gurudev and our Padam Gurudev. They discussed this point that if Radha Kund is considered to be the highest place, then where will it be appropriate for us to stay? One step below. That is their thinking. So their thinking was, oh, our gurus, they will stay in Radha Kund and they will directly serve Radha and Krishna there. We will stay a little distance, a little safe distance, one step below in Govardhan. And our Gurudev, we heard him also discuss this. His vision was that we will stay in our highest ideal, right? We will stay in Govardhan. Very early in the morning, we will depart, we will go for our seva to assist our gurus in Radha Kund, and mentioning also stopping to collect flowers and other ingredients for seva in another sacred area called Kushum Sarovar. And then going from there, going to Radha Kund, offering assistance to our gurus and their seva. And then we return back to our safe place, right, in Govardhan, like that. And so this was their vision, right? And actually, once our Gurudev, I told this story before, and some of you may have heard from others too, but our Gurudev, this isn't something that's been discussed, as I said, by Saraswati Thakur and Srila Sridhar Maharaj, our Gurudev. But there was this one very mystical moment with our Gurudev, when he expressed this vision in a very ecstatic way. And it was, I wasn't there. It was actually, my sister was present, and Sri Lekha, right, who many of you know from Salt Lake City. And we were all in Govardhan at that time. This was 2008. And they went in one morning, the two of them, just to give their respects. And the room was empty. Maybe there were one or two, personal attendants nearby, but they went in just to give their respects, and they sat up, and our Gurudev suddenly started speaking to them and telling them, oh, tomorrow morning we will leave very early. He was in some type of trance or something. We can only, presume. But he was speaking, very matter of fact, and telling them, oh, tomorrow morning we will leave very early, and we will go to Kushum Sarovar, we will collect flowers, and then we will go to Radha Kund, and we will serve Guru Maharaj there, and then we will come back to Govardhan, right? And they were both very puzzled and like looking behind their shoulders, like, who is he? Is he talking to us? No, but he was talking to them. And then they realized he was expressing some mood of ecstasy, right? And seeing this vision, like, this is our life of service. So this is why Govardhan is very special for us. There are other points which are also connected with Govardhan. We can say also this mood of protection. We could say Govardhan represents this mood of protection that the Lord has for his devotees, right? Because in that Leela, Krishna's, the residents of Vrindavan invoke the wrath of Lord Indra, right? And Lord Indra is drowning the residents of Vrindavan with, this heavy storm, torrential storm. And so Krishna protects his devotees, lifting up this Govardhan hill, right? So that's another theme. And there are other points also. So Govardhan has this very special place, right? And we hear how some of the intimate associates of Mahaprabhu, right? Particularly Raghunath Das Goswami, he's one of the famous 6 Goswamis. And Raghunath is known as our Prayojan Acharya, which means he is the guru, the teacher who most profoundly expounded upon the highest ideal of our lineage. And he, Raghunath, he showed this particular affinity for Govardhan, right? And also for Radha Kund. So Govardhan has this, there's one beautiful prayer in particular, Raghunath, where he's aspiring for residence close to Govardhan. So Govardhan has this very special place for us. And then Koladweep, the island of Navadvip, our temple is, as we said, that is exactly corresponding to that area of Vrindavan. And it is referred to often as Gupta Govardhan. Gupta means hidden. And so it is considered Gupta Govardhan because you're seeing the Navadvip dress, but it is simultaneously Govardhan. So hidden Govardhan, Gupta Govardhan, that is often how you will hear that referred to. So I think that's pretty much everything I have to say. Does that answer your question? Does that make sense, Ati Sundar?
Yeah, that actually makes a lot more sense to me. Thank you for the beautiful explanation.
Happy we can discuss these matters. And welcome to those who've joined. I see Ash is with us, and Sulalita came, and Tungarasa. And there's something in the chat here. Oh, Tungarasa is asking about this Rahadev. Yeah, so Rahadev, this is a particular Vishnu avatar appearing as a boar. And he is considered to be the presiding deity of Koladvip, right? So there's also some presiding deity of these different areas of Navadvip. And so Rahadev is considered to be the presiding deity of Koladvip. And then there's a very interesting, the word Kola actually is referring to Rahadev. I don't know the exact, breakdown or literal meaning of the word, but our Gurudev said that Kola is meaning Rahadev. So it is his island. And then of course there's a whole story connected with that, because we have in our temple this Shala, going back to the discussion of different types of Shilas, these deities. In our temple there is this Shalagram Shila of Varahadev, because each of these Shalagram Shilas, these deities representing Lord Vishnu, they also have unique identities as representing one of the different avatars, because Vishnu appears in many forms, right? So each of them has unique markings which indicate a particular avatar. And so that happens in a very mystical way, which maybe we won't tell right now. That's a whole story. But he came by his own will, you can say, in a mystical way. This particular Shalagram Shila representing Varahadev. And so you could also see that as kind of like a, one of the indications of the significance and the profundity of what Srila Sridhar Maharaj was doing, right? Not that he just had, it was not that you can compare it with someone having some mundane conception of doing something and projecting on the environment, but Srila Sridhar Maharaj was really, channeling, this divine vision, and kind of like that's like a very fitting addition to that whole arrangement, right, with his mat and Navadvip, that this particular deity came, to be in that place by his will. Well, I would love to hear something from Chinmoy Prabhu on any of the topics we discussed. Anything you want to add, Prabhu?
No, Didi, that was a very nice explanation of Govardhan and the relationship with Navadvip. Very nice.
Well, if anyone has another question, we could address that. Otherwise, I could tell the story of how that deity came. But if anyone has a burning question that might keep them up at night, I would be happy to discuss that instead. Okay, Jason says story, please. Okay, well, I actually referred to it the other day. In one of I just came from London. We were discussing a little part of the story in London, And originally what happens is, I still can't remember the name. I don't know if anyone remembers the place. Remember Chinmoypu, the name of the place where Jajavar Maharaj had his mat? I can't remember. in Bengal. I can't remember the name. Anyhow, Jajavar Maharaj, very beloved godbrother Srila Maharaj, at one time he was having he had established a mission in one town in Bengal, which name we cannot remember right now. Not so far from our mat, maybe a couple hours away. But he was having some trouble because some of the local, well, not just some of, but it was like a whole group of these pundits, scholars, who were giving him trouble, and they, remember the Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he faced a lot of opposition because he instituted some very revolutionary things. And so some of these local scholars were giving opposition, wouldn't give any credence to Jajavar Maharaj's mission there. And as he had previously done, because actually many years before, in the time of the Gaudiya Math, he had, in the time of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, he had been trying to establish a mission in Varanasi, right, major pilgrimage city in India. And at that time, same issue came up. And remember, we got to put on a different cap here. It's a totally different culture. It's something we're not really used to. We could also say it's a dying culture in India too. But there's traditionally this very rich and ancient culture of scholarship and debate in India, right? And so, there were some people that was their whole livelihood, right? They would travel around and engage in debates, right? And it was a very honorable tradition and occupation. And so there was this very high culture of scholarship and debate. And so it would have been very important, right, that you're acknowledged, accepted by the local scholars, right? But so there had been this time years before when Jajavar Maharaj had faced the same problem trying to open a temple in Varanasi, many local scholars giving opposition. And at that time, Jajavar Maharaj called for Srila Sridhar Maharaj, because Srila Sridhar Maharaj was such a brilliant scholar, and not just a scholar, but he was also very expert in discussing, convincing people, right? And understanding them, actually. That's the main point. Gurudev compared him to a very good lawyer, right? Who first will study what is the argument of the other side and have a very deep understanding of the other side's argument. And then when he goes to oppose, he can do so in a very thorough way, right? And he understood people, actually. He understood different mentalities, and he knew how to speak to different persons in language that they could understand, right? In a manner that they could appreciate. And so, he had so many different qualities which made him so expert in these scholarly debates. And so anyhow, Jajavar Maharaj called him at that time, and Srila Sridhar Maharaj very successfully convinced those scholars, and they, gave their blessings, removed their opposition for the establishment of a Gaudiya Math there in Varanasi. So now fast forward again, so many years later, Jajavar Maharaj is establishing his own mission in Bengal, again facing opposition. What does he do? What do? You call Srila Sridhar Maharaj. So he calls his dear godbrother, please come and help me out here. And we heard Gurudev I heard him tell the story a few times, and there's, maybe you remember some of the details, Chinmoyfu. There's one, I think it's in Germany, where it was Gurudev's visit to Germany in 94 or something. He's sitting outside And that I've heard him tell a few times, but that one, there's that video in particular, he gives more details. And it was an extraordinary meeting. It was something like 200 pundits were present, something like that, 200 of these scholars. And then it was the head guy, the head scholar, who's sitting with Srila Maharaj, and they're conversing. But this is the fascinating point, that, and this gives you some idea of like what's the level, like what was their standard. For 2 hours, the guy is listing his arguments. For 2 hours, he's elaborating on different points, right? 2 hours. And what Srila Maharaj is doing, he's sitting and listening. And that's another point about Srila Maharaj. He was known for his quality as a keen listener, right? To the extent that before he joined the Gaudiya Math, he was just going like as an anonymous visitor. The brahmacharis in the temple thought he was a spy because he was listening so intently and so quietly and so much concentration. They thought, I think from the British government, this was under the British rule that time. I think maybe they thought he was a spy from the British government or something. Some kind, maybe they were they were worried, oh, the British government thinks we're terrorists or something. I don't know. But they thought he was a spy, and he actually got kicked out on one occasion because of that. So he had this quality as a keen listener. So Srila Maharaj sits for this full 2 hours listening, and our Gurudev's there like as a young man and as the attendant, right? And so Gurudev described Srila Maharaj is like he's counting on his fingers, like making mental notes and like this, like that. And then afterwards, very perfectly, Srila Maharaj responds, going through every single point, right? So there was this extraordinary discussion that took place, and this was another quality of Srila Maharaj. Not only was he brilliant at making his arguments and convincing persons, but he also did it in a very dignified and gentle way. That was something our Gurudev mentioned, because to the point that people were happy to be defeated by him, right? So they were happily defeated by him, right? Seeing, his level, right? They were happy to be defeated by him. Well, look, Echo's here. Great to see you, Echo. And we've had a few others join too, Julian, and a few others. Happy to see you, Echo. Yeah, so they were so happy. This head pundit, he was happy to be, because he could see how brilliant Srila Maharaj was, and also that he had this genuine Vaishnava nature, humble nature. And so, and this was to the point that he wanted to give a gift to Srila Maharaj. And so he offered him, he had this big collection. I think Gurudev said it was like a few hundred of these Shalagram Shilas. They were all being worshipped in his room. Many of these Shalagram Shilas. And so he took one from there. He wanted to give to Srila Maharaj. But Srila Maharaj, actually we respected, not who am I to say we, but the mood of the Gaudiya Vaishnavas, right, is that we respect Vishnu, but at a respectful distance. We're more focused on Mahaprabhu and Radha Krishna, Vrindavan Leela, right? And we give our respects to Vishnu, right? And so Srila Maharaj, he was a little reluctant, and he didn't want to accept that. As I mentioned at the beginning, it's also a very, a very high standard of worship is required, for Shalagram Shila. And so Srila Maharaj, he suggested, maybe you can give to Jajavar Maharaj, his godbrother, who was just opening this temple there in that town. So it also made sense, right? Give to him. And so they did like that. And so Jajavar Maharaj received that deity, and he was worshiping that deity for some time in his temple. But he began to see that that there were all these disturbances that began to take place. I've never heard details of what they were, but there were many disturbances that started to take place in his temple from the time that he began that worship. And so he felt that this was happening because the deity wasn't happy to be there. Or Scarlett saying, can I ask why from a distance? Oh, well, because Vishnu, why worshiping Vishnu from a distance, Scarlett is asking. Well, because Vishnu's worship, it is a different mood. I mean, different reasons. One is that it is a different mood. It is more in the mood of Vidimark, means there's more formality, more of a mood of reverence. And you know, we consider the worship of Krishna to be more, let's say, more developed, right? We could also say from the point that our hearts are captured by Krishna wholesale. And then another point is that the as I said, the worship of Vishnu, there are many regulations. You know, there are a lot of it is easier to make a fence, right? And if if that worship isn't carried out properly, then there will be some reaction, right? And so for that reason also we are a little shy, because can we maintain that type of standard, right? Let's say minimum 3 times a day offering. And I can say I can have the experience where I'm staying now, they actually follow that standard, right? He's bathed every day, 3 offerings a day, 2 aratis a day, plus there's this special 2-hour puja that Kumar, Suvasini's husband, that he carries out. He puts on this whole Brahminical get up, and he takes off his hospital robes, and he has this whole Brahminical get up that he has, so I'm happy I get to have that experience here. Like, oh, so this is how the Shalagram Shilas worshipped, right? They're actually doing that here. And they plus this is their whole culture lineage in their bloodline for generations, right? They both come from these high South, and not just any Brahmins, South Indian Brahmins and high level South Indian Brahmins, right? It's in their blood, right? So they can do that. That's another point, right? That there has to be real Brahminical qualification, we can say, to do worship of Shalagram Shila. There was this one occasion when there was this kind of fashion in a while in ISKCON for persons to worship Shalagram Shilas. And then gradually many of those persons started to realize, oh, actually, I can't really do this. And there were many devotees who were coming and depositing their Shalagram Shilas in Navadvip, right, at our Ma, leaving them with Srila Sridhar Maharaj. So there was this big pile of Shalagram Shilas in our temple. This was in the 80s sometime. And what Srila Sridhar Maharaj did is he gave this, it was a special mission for Madhusudan Maharaj, who was Mahananda at the time, to return them to this river in the Himalayas. And so he took this big pile of these stones, the Shalagram Shilas, and he made this trek to the Gandaki River in the Himalayas, and that's where they come from, and he returned them there. So going back to our story, right? So Jadra Maharaj, he made this connection that, oh, I feel that this deity is not pleased for some reason. He doesn't want to be here. And so he sent a message to Srila Sridhar Maharaj, oh, please take your, oh, my pleasure, Scarlett. Hope it answered your question. And so he sent a message to Srila Sridhar Maharaj, please take your deity. I can't take care of him. Again, Srila Sridhar Maharaj is reluctant. And so he says, well, what about Goswami Maharaj? Bhakti Saranga Goswami, another dear godbrother of Srila Sridhar Maharaj. And Gurudev said, Goswami Maharaj, he was a very powerful person, and Gurudev said he had a nature like Lord Shiva, in the sense that he could digest anything, right? Like Lord Shiva, he can drink the poison that came from the ocean of milk. You know, he said, so Goswami Maharaj had this type of nature, like he could handle anything. And so Srila Sridhar Maharaj said, what about Goswami Maharaj? Maybe he can take care of the deity. And so everyone agreed, and the deity was sent to Goswami Maharaj's mat in Kolkata. And the deity was there for some time. And again, same types of disturbances started to take place again in Goswami Maharaj's temple. And so Goswami Maharaj, he wrote to Srila Sridhar Maharaj saying, oh, please take your deity, you know, I can't handle him. I can't keep him here. And so finally Srila Sridhar Maharaj accepted, okay, you know, yeah, I have to take him. He wants to come here. And so that deity was brought. And as I mentioned, each of these stones, they have particular unique markings. And I think it's the Kurma Purana. There's one Vedic text which describes all these markings and tells you which avatar of Lord Vishnu they represent. And our Gurudev looked at it and he said he thought it was Varahadev. And Srila Sridhar Maharaj told them, you confirm, you look in the scripture. And so Gurudev looked and it confirmed, they matched with the markings, and it was, they could see that this was Varahadev. And they were, you know, what can I say? They were very pleased, you know, because as I said, Varahadev is the presiding deity. He's known to be the presiding deity. That particular Vishnu avatar is the presiding deity of that particular island of Navadvip, Koladvip. And so then they could understand, oh, he wanted to come to his own place, right? He wanted to come to his own place. And then everything, you know, made sense. And Srila Sridhar Maharaj also gave the instruction. Srila Sridhar Maharaj never thought he was beyond anything. He never thought he was above anything. And he said, you know, because this is a very particular type of deity, he says we have to care for him in a particular way. And he gave the instruction that the puja for that deity should always be done by someone of a Brahmin birth. And also that he wanted a special sweet rice made especially for that deity every day. And so that deity is known as Lakshmi, because Lakshmi Devi, you know, she is the goddess of fortune. She's always with Lord Vishnu. So that deity is worshipped actually as Lakshmi Varaha Devi. And that is how that worship went on, and it's still going on as far as I know. So yes, that was Srila Sridhar Maharaj's like remedy, you could say, like to keep the deity happy, you know, we will honor these things. We will worship him in this careful way. So that's the history. That's the story. It's such a rich history, actually. Everything surrounding, you know, how the mat was established and how it went on in the time of Srila Sridhar Maharaj and Srila Govinda Maharaj. It's very nice to discuss these things. And now we are going over time. I usually like to end on time. Anyhow, very happy to be here with all of you. You're keeping me alive. You know, honestly, it's the power of Harikatha. Honestly, sometimes I'm like physically feeling absolutely terrible when I come to do the talk, and then I just feel like a new person afterwards. And last Tuesday, I was in London and was really feeling so bad, and even one of the devotees noticed it. She said, Vishakha, like after the Zoom, you look completely different. She said, before I saw you in the afternoon, I was so worried. You look so tired and weak. But then she saw me when I came out of my room after the meeting, and you look like a different person. I was full of energy. And it's an extraordinary thing. It's an extraordinary thing. So really, you are actually keeping me alive. It's not just an expression, but it's a very tangible reality. So thank you all for your association. Thank you for engaging me, and hope we can continue. Jai Shri Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj ki Jai, Shri Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Dev Goswami Maharaj ki Jai, Shri Chaitanya Saraswati Maharaj ki Jai, all the assembled devotees ki Jai, Shri Harinam Sankirtan ki Jai, Nitai Gaur Prem. You know what? You know, I'm just thinking, since we've been talking so much about this Shalagram Shila, I should come down and show you the temple. I'll go downstairs. Yeah. Seriously, whenever I come here, I feel like I've gone back in time. They're so like Paka and Suvasini and her husband. It's like you're entering the pages of Mahabharata. Oh, this is Kumar. Hello. I was telling them about how you worship Shalagram Shila every day. You bring them to have darshan. I think he's here on this little throne. I think so. Actually, I'm not entirely sure. Yeah, it's a small meeting. They're making, this is the evening offering here. Idlis, they're, as I said, South Indian, so idlis and chutney. Or maybe, actually, I'm not sure which one. Maybe behind the flower. I guess he's very small. Years. And I think Suvasini, she has another meeting. She does a Bhagavad Gita meeting. Bring you in here. Oh, she's singing Prema Dhamma Deva Stotra. Oh, Dandavats to all the devotees. Sorry to put you on the spot. And some devotees actually here, you can see Haripriya, Mini, this have another Zoom going. Dandavat. So I was telling them about the Shalagram Shila. Right. And this is a black stone there? Yes. Okay, black. So he's a black Shila. Okay. Yes. Yeah, so that black Shila that was there. Okay. Yeah, so this is Suvas. Dandavats, everybody. Yeah, maybe you can come in later. Yeah. Okay, yeah. Yeah, they're all like really high class. Like they've all got like PhDs and please, yeah. You know, like, yeah, I feel very rough when I come here. Uncultured.
Dumbledore wants to know if you're in Hungary.
What did you say?
Don't disturb her. She's giving a class.
Are you in Hungary? No.
I'm in Ireland right now.
She's giving a class.
Yeah,
where?
so this small black DT, maybe you probably can. Maybe you can see a little. Now this is Shah. I haven't seen one like that. With Ganesh.
Can you go closer? Is it like behind the little blossom?
No, he's in the front. Do you see small black? I don't know if you can see. Okay, I see some thumbs up, yeah. Okay, well,
so
yes,
he's very small. He's like a thumb. He's the size of a half a thumb or something.
Small. Yeah, he is.
Okay,
yeah.
okay.
He's very small. Oh. Okay, well, I won't hold you up anymore. See you all next time. Have a beautiful week ahead. Guys,
Dhanyavad.
Jai Vishakha Dasi ki. Jai.
Yeah.